Hello, my name is Hakon, and welcome back, all you fabulous fighting fantasy aficionados, for yet another riveting episode of Fighting Fantasy Fun as I play Crypt of the Sorcerer, or Necromancer as I usually like calling it, for the second time. So, last time I got started on this, and I think I made some correct decisions, but then there were also other things that happened that I'm quite sure I shouldn't have done. I'm just going to start from the beginning now because I want to try some different options, some different choices, and see where that leads me. Now, another thing, last time I was playing, my instinct was telling me that I should ignore a little bit my abilities and also some of the combat roles because, well, first of all, I do sometimes find them a bit tedious. But interestingly, after I posted that, someone commented saying that this book, apparently notoriously, is practically impossible to beat fair and square. And even with maximum abilities, your chances of winning are like 0.1%, something like that, which is ridiculous. And that's a problem with many of these fighting fantasy books, is they're written to be difficult rather than to be fun. So one does have to ignore some of the difficult bits and adjust a bit to make them more fun, which is something I've been doing for quite a while anyway, but it's something that the books actually force you to do, which is a bit of a shame because if all the books had been balanced to be rather fair, to be challenging but fair to the player, then of course people wouldn't have had to cheat as much as they do. So, but if the books are sort of in a way cheating by not being fair, then of course the player has to cheat as well. Otherwise, it won't be fun, which is a bit of a shame because, well, it would have been more fun if you didn't have to, if you see what I mean. Anyway, I'll just get started. Ta-da! Boom. Right, here we are on my desk with my supplies. I got my book, got my dice, pens, pencil, character sheet from last time. I'm just going to very simply just keep the same abilities. Not going to matter so much because I will possibly have to ignore some combat and some ability rolls and things like that just to get through this anyway, according to what I've heard. And I got my map. So the big puzzle now for me in this book, as usual is usually is the case, is to find the correct path through. That's the big challenge, especially in an Ian Livingstone book. Where you also have to make sure you have the correct items, of course. Right, so I'm just going to get started now on this. Let's do the background again as well. May as well. Right. Chalice is a small town lying on the banks of Silver River at the base of Moonstone Hills. It has grown from being merely a cluster of cabins and huts to its present size, mainly because it became an important trading center for prospectors seeking gold in the hills. There's gold in them hills. It was the first safe haven for merchants who had traveled west from the flatlands on their way to Silverton. In Chalice, they could rest and do business without fear of attack. There are plenty of inns and places of entertainment, and it used to be among the most boisterous towns of Valencia. But now, as you look out of the window of your upstairs bedroom at the Lion Inn, there is no sign of merriment. For 3 weeks, the sky has been dark and menacing. People recently arriving in Chalice from the east have told of pestilence, plague, disease, and famine moving ever closer to the west. Only yesterday, a story spread like wildfire through the town that someone had discovered where the source of evil lay. An elf, flying south on his giant eagle over the southern edge of Moonstone Hills, noticed a deep fissure in the ground, out of which rose a putrid-smelling vapor. All around the fissure, the grass was blackened and the trees were stunted and leafless. As he flew over the fissure, the elf said, he saw a scorched and withered hand rise out of the gap, its claw-like index finger pointing up at the eagle. An energy bolt shot up from the tip of the finger and burned a hole straight through the poor creature. It crashed to the ground, but the elf escaped with his life and walked to Chalice to tell his tale. You are a friend of the old wizard Yaztromo, who lives on the southern edge of Darkwood Forest, and you decide to visit him and relate the elf's tale. In the now familiar dusky light of day, you spur your horse northwards to Yaztromo's tower, and before nightfall, you reach the overgrown path that leads to it. You dismount quickly, stride up to the huge oak door, and ring the brass bell that hangs in the stone archway. There is no reply. But suddenly you are tapped on the shoulder, and you whirl around, reaching for your sword. "There'll be no need for that," grunts the old man who stands before you, shaking his finger in admonishment. "What are you doing here anyway? Disturbing my peace and quiet. I haven't laid eyes on you for over a year, and now you just turn up unannounced, walk straight through my herb garden, and ring my bell long enough to wake the dead. Well, what do you want?" You smile to yourself while you watch the grumpy old wizard displaying his usual hospitality. "And what's so funny?" he asks. Your expression immediately changes, and Yaztromo frowns when he sees a concerned look on your face. "I think we should go upstairs so that you can tell me what is troubling you. I presume something is troubling you, as I'm sure you wouldn't visit me for any other reason. And I can guess that it has something to do with this infernal dark sky." When you are finished telling Yaztromo to the elf's tale, he remains sitting silently in his old oak chair, his face as somber as a grave. At last he speaks, sighing with every word. "Then my worst fears are realized. The necromancer has risen. Those fools. Their greed might now bring an end to life in Alancia, unless..." Completely puzzled by Yaztromo's mutterings, you ask him to explain. As if describing a horrible nightmare, Yaztromo recounts the legend of the evil necromancer Razak, who threatened Alancia 100 years ago. Although he first learned his skills as an apprentice to a lawful wizard, Razak was attracted early on in life by the dark power of evil. He realized that he could become a great sorcerer who would one day be able to command everyone to obey him. He had no desire or intention to use his magic to help Alancia. He wanted the kingdom to be brought to its knees. He traveled to a remote part of eastern Alancia, and there he practiced his arcane arts. Arcane acts, actually, it says. Although maybe it should have been arts. Anyway, he quickly progressed through the levels of dark magic, from lowly apprentice to wizard, and then sorcerer, so that at last his powers were so great that he became a necromancer, having spent the last 40 years in solitude. Razak then sent messages to all the nobles of Alancia, demanding that they acknowledge him as their ruler. At first they ignored him, for none had heard of him. Razak took umbrage, and in retaliation brought plague and pestilence to the nobles' provinces, giving them until the next full moon to recognize his leadership. Many warriors died. No, many warriors offered to try to slay Razak, and many died in the attempt. But one brave man by the name of Kull succeeded and saved Alancia. He owned a sword which he had found in the Moonstone Hills, gripped by a skeletal hand rising from a mist-covered lake, across which he was sailing a raft. Kull was mesmerized by the sword's magnificent beauty. He immediately wanted it for his own and reached out for it. The skeleton made no attempt to prevent him, and simply slipped down into the muddy depths of the lake as soon as it released the sword. Kull was so overwhelmed with the sword that nothing else mattered to him. He steered his raft to the shore and began testing his new weapon. He discovered that nothing could dull its edge, and that it could cut through plate mail armor with ease. He did not realize that the sword had once belonged to Razak, and was the only weapon in the whole world with the power to slay him. Razak, in order to become a necromancer, had had to relinquish all weapons, but there was no power strong enough to destroy his cursed sword. To try to rid himself of the sword, Razak threw it into the lake, but it rose to the surface in the grip of the skeleton. For years, the skeleton clutched the sword until Kull caught sight of it and took it for himself. And so, a twist of fate took the invincible Kull to Razak, and Razak was slain at the hand of Kull by the sword that had once been his own. But the moment Razak was slain, Kull's flesh fell from his bones and lay in a pile of dust around his skeletal feet. Razak's magic had condemned him to an eternal nightmare as a skeleton, unable to release the sword. He seized the hooded robe and fled into Moonstone Hills, and it is said that to this day he drifts constantly across the same lake on his raft, clutching the sword, unable to rest until someone takes it from him. Razak's body was placed in a stone sarcophagus and entombed in a fissure in the southern hills. The crypt was sealed by a lawful sorcerer who decreed that it must remain unopened for 110 years. Otherwise, the necromancer would rise with a host of undead to destroy all life. I can only assume, concludes Yaztromo with a deep sigh, that treasure hunters found the necromancer's crypt and open it unknowingly. Razak must be destroyed before it is too late. Oh, but it's going to be so difficult. We'll need to find Razak's sword and a number of talismans and amulets that will protect you from the necromancer's magic. I trust you will volunteer for this mighty task. Slowly you nod your head, although your brain is still spinning with Yaztromo's tale of Razak and poor Kull. Good, continues Yaztromo. Now, don't worry about the sword. I won't let you become a skeleton. Just bring it back here, and in the meantime, I'll be calling on a few people who can help us. There is no time to waste. You must find the lake in Moonstone Hills. Rest well tonight, and leave at first light, what little of it there is. Now turn over. Right, so that is the introduction now. Some cliches, some interesting bits there, and generally I think it's a good intro, I think. Right, so let's get started on paragraph 1. You are woken from a nightmare in which undead creatures attack you with swords by Yaztromo, tapping you on the shoulder. Time to get up. It's almost dawn, he says in a sleepy voice. Within 20 minutes you are outside and mounted on your horse. Yaztromo smiles, ever optimistic in the face of danger, and hands you a small glass phial. Healing potion, he says. Enough for 5 tots. Note this on your adventure sheet. Okay, so we've got 5 tots of healing potion. The healing potion will restore 4 stamina points each time it is drunk. So this is instead of provisions, really, in this particular game. And make a note each time you drink it. I presume you cannot do that during combat. It doesn't actually say, does it? It does not say. So technically, in this book, that means that you could drink potion in combat. Yeah. Okay. The old wizard then waves to you as you gallop off, heading east towards Moonstone Hills in search of the lost lake. By midday, the hills rise up threateningly from the horizon, flanking you from north to south, and you wonder how you will ever find the lake. By nightfall, you find yourself at the foot of the hills, where Silver River flows out onto the Windward Plain towards Chalice. You decide to camp by the river and make a fire to keep you warm, and also to ward off any hunters of the night. The night passes without incident, and in the morning you wake feeling hungry. After eating bread and cheese from your backpack, you climb onto your horse and decide which way to head. If you wish to wade across the river and ride east into the hills, turn to 255. If you would rather follow the river north up into the hills, turn to 146. Now, last time I went east. And of course, there were some bits on the way that definitely looks like they are part of the correct path. But there may be other choke points where going the different direction will also lead you back to those. So today I'm going to go into the hills, which is a different choice, just to see what happens. So 255. You urge your horse into the river and are soon on the far bank. Hang on, that's the one I did last time. Did I write down the correct ones? Yes. Oh, I just looked at the wrong number there. 146 is where I'm going. There we are. You climb steadily up into the hills, following the winding river. After an hour or so, the ground becomes very marshy, and your horse has to struggle to keep moving forward. It appears that this part of the river often breaks its banks and floods the valley. If you wish to keep heading north, turn to 249. If you would rather cross the river and ride east into the hills, turn to 53. Okay, so it looks like this probably isn't the best choice. Now, by having gone north now, I've already missed finding the knife, for instance, that you could get at this point. Just out of interest now, I want to see what happens if you keep going. It doesn't sound like that'll end well for some reason. So keep heading north, 249. So there we are, 249. Ahead, you see movement in the tall, wet grass and become aware of a loud buzzing noise. 6 large, mottled black harpoon flies, which are these charming-looking creatures here, looking quite. That's a nice drawing there. Suddenly rise into the air, each the size of a pigeon. Although their heads appear to have an elongated proboscis, it is actually a poisoned needle-like spike which harpoon flies can shoot at a target. They can only grow one needle at a time, and it takes a week for the needle to grow back after a hit has been fired. The poison paralyzes the harpoon fly's victims, and female harpoon flies then lay their eggs under the skin so that the maggots will have plenty of meat to feed on when they hatch. Roll 1 die to determine how many needles hit you. Okay, rolling 1 die. 4. Okay, so that's 1d6. So 3 options there for what happens next. I'll just put them down there actually, like so. So 3, 4, 6, 1, 2, 2, 3, 8, 8, 3, 2, 4, 13, 5, 2, 6. I was hit by 4 of them. I'm going to go to 388. The strong poison acts quickly and you feel your limbs begin to stiffen. Lose 6 stamina points and 2 skill points. So minus 6 stamina, minus 2 skill. With extreme effort, you manage to keep your horse moving and escape the grotesque harpoon flies. It's going to put up the skill, 9, stamina, 14. As soon as they are left behind, you swallow a tot of Yaztromo's healing potion to counter the effect of the poison. You immediately feel better, but you do not regain any skill or stamina points. Okay, so I've got 4 tots left of the potion, but I didn't gain any stamina from it. That's fair. Feeling relieved to be over the marsh, you continue your trek into the hills following the river. Turn to 185. So let's see, 185. This clearly looks like the wrong way, doesn't it? At the moment. You wend your way slowly north, and 2 hours later notice a cave halfway up the hill on the other side of the valley. If you wish to cross the river to look at the cave, turn to 97. If you would rather continue following the river, turn to 159. So we've got cave or following the river. So 159, river, 97, cave. I'm going to check out the cave, obviously, and go to 97. There we are. The river is wide, but not very deep, and you have no trouble in crossing it. You ride up the hill, and as you approach the cave, you see that a well-worn path runs out from its mouth and down the hill. You climb down from the saddle, tie a horse to a rock, and walk up to the entrance. The cave is dark, and you cannot see far beyond the entrance. If you wish to enter the cave, turn to 310. If you would rather ride back down the hill and follow the river up the valley, turn to 284. So we got the option of leaving 284 or enter the cave. 310. I'm going to enter the cave, have a little look. It is pitch dark inside the cave, and to safeguard yourself from falling down an unseen pit, you tap the ground in front of you with your sword. And suddenly your sword hits something solid directly in your path, which sounds as if it is a metal object. You reach out and feel the object and deduce that it is a large metal box bolted to the ground. It has a hinged lid. If you wish to try lifting the lid, turn to 45. If you'd rather walk back to your horse, turn to 235. We're giving so many options now of going back. Either this is really good or really bad. So 235, go back, it says leave, and 45. Box. Well, in for a penny, etc. I'm going to open the box. You stand to one side of the metal box, fearing a trap, and lift up the lid with your sword. The cave is immediately bathed in brilliant white light, which shines out from the box and is so intensely bright that it hurts your eyes. Squinting through half-closed eyes, you see that you are not alone. Animated by the light, two rad hulks lumber towards you from the back of the cave. They are hairless and have sallow skin which bulges with pulsating red veins running up and down their bodies. Although blind, they can sense your body heat and move in to touch you. Will you try to close the lid of the box, turn and run, or fight the red hulks? So, run 395, 372. Close the box. If you close the box now, of course, you won't be able to see a thing, and they can still see you. So, or they can sense you. 143. I'm not going to fight them. Probably fight, run, close. I'm going to fight them. 143. The mindless radhulks shuffle towards you and do not flinch from the blow of your sword. They are charged by the light and are powerful opponents. Fight them one at a time. If you win, turn to 87. I'm not going to bother rolling that out because, I don't know. Should I just roll it out? It's a bit boring with all this combat rolling sometimes. Okay. That's not that exciting. And certainly when I know that this book does not play fair, it's yeah. Right. 6, 8. So I'm hitting the first one. 7, 8. Draw. 11, 5. He hits me. 8, 6. 6, 8, 9, 11. First one is dead. Second one, 9, 5, 8, 5, 6, 12, 6, 7. Draw. 7, 9. And 6, 6. 6, 4, 3, 10, and he is also dead. I got 2 stamina left. I'll just take a few tots of healing potion. So I've got 10. Right. So if you went turn to 80, so 10, 5, 10, 6. And then we turn to 87. You explore the back of the cave and find a wooden crate. If you wish to break the crate open, turn to 295. If you would rather walk back to your horse, turn to 235. Okay, well, 235, that is the last one I had as well there. And crate. So that's 295. Well, I'll have to break up the crate now because, well, why else was I fighting them for? You prise the crate open with your sword and find 2 suits of armor inside, but no helmets. Well, you try on the suit of plate armor, try on the chainmail suit, leave the armor and return to your horse. So again, leaving is 235, and then we have the options between chainmail or plate mail. 28 chain. So what do you think? Chain or plate? To go with the chainmail, 328. The armor fits you well and does not restrict your agility. Add 1 skill point. Plus 1 skill. You have no use for the plate armor, so you walk back to your horse. Turn to 235. Now, of course, out of curiosity now, and I think I'll just have a little look and see what happens if you do the plate armor. Got the right one, 300 and... Okay. The other one also gives a skill, but it is cursed. So, okay. So that is the correct option in this case. 235 we go to. Relieved to be outside in the open air, you jump onto your horse and ride down the hill to follow the river further along the valley. Turn to 284. So that is back to 284 there. Okay. An hour later, you must decide that you are traveling too far north and must head east if you ever to find the lost lake. At a suitable point, you turn east away from the river and ride up into the hills. Sometime later, you catch sight of a thin plume of smoke rising up from the other side of the nearest hill to your left. If you wish to go and see what is causing the smoke, turn to 33. If you would rather ride on, turn to 261. Do we have either 261 or 33 already? It does not look like we do. So I'll put those up here as new options. So it's 33 or 261. Ride on, or what's called smoke. I'll just put that. So I'm going to check out the smoke, of course. 33. You know me. I'll definitely want to examine what's going on. As you ride over the crest of the hill, your question is quickly answered. The plume of smoke is rising from the dying embers of a wooden hut burnt to the ground. An old gold miner with an arrow in his stomach is lying motionless, propped up against a barrel. An axe lies by his side. If you wish to see if he is still alive, turn to 52. If you'd rather press on, turn to 261. So I'm going to check if he is still alive and go to 52. Alive, question mark. Yep. You pressed your ear against the old man's chest. He is alive, but only just. You try to give him water from the barrel, but he coughs and groans and is unable to drink because of his stomach wound. Slowly his eyes open a little and he starts to speak in a labored whisper. Orcs! 4 of them took my gold and food. Headed east from here. Be careful of ambush. Look inside barrel. Take the... But he never finishes the sentence, and his last words are lost in his dying breath. After burying the old man, he decided to tip up the water barrel, but not before drinking your fill. Add 1 stamina point. 11. When you investigate the empty barrel, you notice that it has a false bottom. You prise it open with your sword and find a golden nugget worth 10 gold pieces. So 10 gold pieces, I suppose. A knife, a phial of clear liquid. So a knife, okay. Knife and a phial of clear liquid labeled holy water. So one of the things you found when you went east was also a knife. So this might actually be one of those things where there's a kind of a trick where he leads you to believe that the correct path is the one that is either now this way or the other way, because that's where you find the knife that you later might need for something, although the knife was not essential. So it still actually isn't clear which of these paths is the correct one of the ones I've tried, which I find very interesting. And this is, of course, what I think is the most fun part of these books, that sort of the puzzle of the path. Right. Unless you have other actual puzzles, of course. Yeah. Let's put +1 stamina. Let's see, +1 stamina. Knife, holy water, and gold 10. Right. And it says a translucent crystal hanging from a gold chain. After putting the nugget and the file in your pocket and placing the knife in your belt, you examine the strange crystal. If you wish to put the chain around your neck... Excuse me, phone call. Right, back again. Sorry about that. So, there was also a crystal hanging from a gold chain. After putting the nugget and the file in your pocket and placing the knife in your belt, you examine the strange crystal. If you wish to put the chain around your neck, turn to 352. If you would rather leave it and ride southeast to avoid the orcs, turn to 137. Now, I was told to check out this barrel, and as far as I can tell, the most important item in this barrel is the chain. The other stuff is generic. It's a gold nugget, it's a knife, well, holy water, I suppose, but there's nothing special, not as special about it, but the chain might be the item that he wanted me to have. So, I'm going to check that out. Okay, so, options. Putting the necklace on, 352, or riding southeast to avoid the orcs. So that's southeast or necklace. And I have been told I'm looking for amulets and talismans. Maybe this is one of them. So, 352. You are now wearing a crystal of sanity. This talisman will protect you from any assaults on your sanity. And that sounds like an essential item to me. So let's see. So we're going to put a circle around there, and let's put in black so we can see the contrast. Talisman of sanity. So without it, you probably would go insane at some point later in the game. There we are. Taking heed of the miner's warning, you turn your horse southeast to avoid the orcs. Turn to 137. Okay, so 137. As you ride along, you gaze up at the somber sky, scanning it for winged killers that might swoop down to attack. There are no flying creatures to be seen, but an unnerving silence sends a shiver down your spine. You look around for signs of orcs, but see nothing. Suddenly your horse whinnies and rears up on its hind legs. Roll 2 dice. 3. If the total is same or less than your skill, okay. Didn't that happen the other day as well? No, not the same numbers anyway. So let's just see. I just had a sort of vague recollection of there being something like that in the previous one as well. So that's a test skill. And so that's 39. Success. 298. Fail. So I succeeded my skill roll, and I'm going to 39. Keeping a firm grip on the reins, you are able to stay in the saddle. Suddenly, 3 evil-looking creatures materialize as if by magic to ambush you. Turn to 239. Okay. 239. Again, that sounds very familiar. Okay. Having a deja vu there. Yes, I have seen these before. The Chameleonites. Where did I see these? Oh, it's right down here. Okay, so that means on my map now, you can go either this little bit here, we can go all the way here, and then you get back to this bit. So, so 137 is practically the same as 53. So I can cross these out actually, and move my. I'll just do a red now, so it's easy to see that it goes down here. And it goes to those paragraphs there. Okay, so that also again indicates to me that this is the correct path, because the most convoluted one is usually the correct path. Now, there is a caveat though, because on this particular path, you are quite likely to lose skill, which is a bit rubbish when you think about it. I mean, the best option for when you meet those flies with the harpoons is to roll a 1 or 2, and if you don't roll a 1 or 2, you lose skill. So that's quite harsh, and this is probably one of the reasons why this game is so hard to win. Because most likely you will lose skill. Okay. Chameleonites, yes. The stone-colored chameleonites bound forward on 2 legs with strange, jerky movement. Their bulbous eyes and long tongues protrude from their reptilian heads, and their bodies are covered with scales. But they are humanoid in shape, and each carries a stone club with which to attack you. Fight them one at a time. If you're still on horseback, add 2 to your attack strength. And I'm still on horseback, so yeah, so that'll be a relatively easy battle. I'm not going to roll that out. Dull. Okay. 3, 5, 6. So I won the battle, as if by magic, and you look down at the lifeless bodies of the Chameleonites and recall a legend you were once told. It is said that the blood of these rare creatures gives a human being the power of perfect camouflage just once in his or her life. It is also said that sometimes there are terrible side effects. If you wish to dab some Chameleonite blood onto your body, turn to 124. So last time I actually lost 1 skill when I did this. Let's just try it again. Okay. Just to see what the different effects are if I roll something else. You tentatively dab some blood onto yourself and wait to see if you feel any ill effects. Roll 1 die. And I rolled a 4 this time, which is a different one to last time. So that's going to 361. 10 minutes pass and you notice and nothing terrible happens to you. You realize that you are immune to the side effects of the Chameleonite's blood. Add 1 luck point. Luck is max, yeah. In high spirits, you turn your horse east. Turn to 180. Okay. So I'm not being told, of course, what the effect is, but I suppose that still means I will have the effect of the Chameleonite blood when needed later. It's a bit of a strange effect to be able to get perfect camouflage once in your life. That's a bit contrived, isn't it? Anyway, at the bottom of the next hill, you see that the ground is littered with the large bones of unknown creatures. Some are piled high, while others are scattered over a wide area. Suddenly, you notice a small black cloaked and hooded figure scurry from behind one pile of bones to another. Go away! Go away! He shouts in a voice full of fear. If you wish to approach him, turn to 70. If you would rather ride around the Valley of Bones, turn to 369. And of course, I'm going to approach him. 70. As you approach the pile of bones, you are assailed by a salvo of bones, frantically thrown by the little man. If you wish to attack him, turn to 134. If you would rather call out and tell him that you mean him no harm, turn to 343. So I'm going to call out, of course. 343. The little man stops throwing the bones and asks you why you're trespassing on his ground. You reply that you are on an important quest and that you must find the lost lake. I'm just a simple man known as the Bone Keeper, the little man says in a sad voice, and I do not know of any lost lake. I thought through these bones and carved some of them into magical rings. I would very much like a new knife for my work and would gladly give you one of my rings in exchange, but if you possess a knife which you would like to exchange for a ring, turn to 208. Yeah, I do have a knife. That's why you find a knife, I presume. That's the reason for it. I mean, there's even one in both paths. There's a knife, so it sort of sounds like that's important. You hand the Bonekeeper the knife. He examines it carefully, grunts in satisfaction, and unties a leather pouch which is hanging around his neck. He hands you a ring made of highly polished bone which has a full moon carved into its surface. Protect you from werewolves, that will, he says very proudly. Just point it at a werewolf and say, 1, 2, 3, turn and flee. And that's all. You thank the Bonekeeper for the ring, bid him farewell, and ride out of the Valley of Bones. Turn to 369. So, this, of course, is a reference as well to the paragraph 1, 2, 3, which is where you need to go when you meet the werewolf. There we are. 369. Which also indicates to me that you only need it once, by the way. Which still makes it seem like it's not an essential item, because surely you would be able to beat the werewolf without it, or would you? Maybe you wouldn't be able to harm the werewolf because they can only be harmed by a silver or something like that. Yeah. Leaving the valley behind, you urge your horse up the next hill until you reach a pile of dark granite boulders. Now, I just realized that because of the structure now, there are no sort of extra paths off the side here. I've actually been almost everywhere in the beginning, which means that the next time I play, I could actually start from further along. Because of the linearity of the particular narratives that you get in these Ian Livingstone books usually. The largest boulder appears to have some words chiseled into it, most of which are hidden by moss. If you wish to dismount and examine the words, turn to 306. I do wish to examine the words, obviously. When did you ever see words carved into? Well, actually, there are sometimes like words on that you can see actually harm you as well. There are a few curses in was it Death Trap Dungeon, I think. Anyway, yes. You scrape the moss away and read the words of a rhyme. To go beyond a granite door, press the numbers 184. You memorize the rhyme, remount your horse, and ride on. So we've got 184, 184, granite door. At the bottom of the hill, you see a narrow stream running north to south across your path. When you arrive at the edge, your horse stops and puts its head down to drink. If you wish to release the reins to allow your horse to drink, turn to 376. That is what I did last time, isn't it? Yeah. Let's see. So it's, if you would rather force it to cross the stream so that you can continue your quest, go to 391. So I'm going to... Did I let it drink? 376. I'm wondering if I made a wrong note on my map there. I did. So let's see. +1 stamina is there, not there. Your horse drinks long and hard at the cool stream. You decide to do likewise, as you believe the water to be pure in the hills. Add 1 stamina point. 12. When you think your horse has rested enough, you remount and cross the stream. Turn to 391. You reach the brow of the next hill and look eastwards into the distance. All you can see is a never-ending range of hills stretching out into the gloom of the dark sky. Suddenly you hear the sound of galloping hoofs and shrill war cries piercing the silence. You turn to look behind you and see a group of goblins charging up the hill on horses, riding bareback. One of them carries a banner with shrunken heads swinging from it. There are 4 goblins in the raiding party, and you must quickly decide what to do. If you wish to charge down the hill to attack them, turn to 60. If you wish to gallop away from them, turn to 16. Excuse me. The last time I attacked them, but I see that the paragraph you get to after you attack them and win is 16. So it sounds to me like you don't have to fight them. That can't be right, though. No, that's 116. Ah, yes, that's. I was wondering because that's. It looked like 16 on my map, but it's 116. I'm just going to attack them, and I'm going to say that I kill them because they are very weak. So I don't have to. Can't be bothered to roll for that combat, and I know this is going to be an unfair book anyway. But they do only have 5 and 6 skills. So you manage to maneuver your horse so that you can fight the goblins one at a time, and there's 4 of them. And if you win, turn to 116. I'm going to go to 116. Story dice. Search through the canvas bags belonging to the goblins yield 2 gold pieces. So I got now 12 gold's worth of valuables, including the gold nugget. Some stale cheese and a cracked mirror and a silver frame. So we got mirror. Mirror. Usually when there's a mirror, there's a gorgon of some sort somewhere. You pack away the gold in the mirror and examine the cheese. If you want to eat it, turn to 140. If you would rather throw it away and ride east, turn to 292. I think I'll eat the cheese. The cheese is dry and hard, but still nourishing. Add 2 stamina points. Okay, so I'm up to 14. After you have finished eating, you slap your horse on the neck and ride east. Turn to 292. So that is the correct choice. 116 there. 292. You ride over the top of the hill again and down the other side. At the bottom you can see a small wood at the end of the valley to the north. If you wish to ride towards the wood, turn to 203. If you would rather ride up the next hill, turn to 280. What was happening in the wood again? There was some things going on there. There was a clue. There were some different things there. I'm going to go towards the wood again. You trot between tall gnarled trees into thick undergrowth. It is dark and eerie in the wood, with what little light there is outside virtually shut out by the crowded tree tops. You pull your horse to a halt and have a strong feeling that you are being watched. Keeping a constant watch all around you, you urge your horse to walk on. Turn to 365. As you ride slowly through the wood, you see the leaves of a bush move and cannot convince yourself that it was ruffled by the wind. You draw your sword and turn your horse towards the bush. A hideous creature suddenly leaps out and stares at you through sunken eyes as dark as the earth itself. The creature is humanoid in shape, but with dark, crusty skin like bark, covered in moss and fungus and crawling with bloated insects. It has a lifeless expression on its crumpled face. Suddenly, the wood demon's arms uncurl and extend like long vines and try to pull you from your horse. Roll 2 dice. If the total is the same as or less than your skill, turn to 232. If the total is greater than your skill, turn to 397. Where are we? 232. 397. I got 397 because I didn't succeed. The wood demon's vine-like arms wrap around you and pull you down to the ground. As you fall, your sword is knocked from your hand. If you possess a hunting knife, turn to 260. That's the one I gave away. If you do not have a knife, turn to 27. So I suppose you are in trouble now if you didn't keep the knife, interestingly. Let's see. So put those 2 options there. So that's 260, knife, and 27, no knife. No knife. The powerful arms of the demon tighten around your midriff and squeeze the life from your body. The demon then lumbers off, content that it has found another source of nutrients to feed the earth of its beloved wood. So, if you don't have a knife and you fail your luck roll, that's the end there. If you do have a knife, I presume you can still fight. Where are we now? 2, 4, no, 2, 6. Hang on, am I written the 2? My writing is horrible on these maps. It's probably a good thing because it leaves it a little bit cryptic. 260 actually. Yeah, that's supposed to be a 0. That's okay. 260. Yeah, so with a knife you can still fight, but of course you lose stamina. So I'm wondering now if I should call it the day, because it's been I have some other things I need to do today actually. So what I'm going to do last time, no, not last time. What I'm going to do next time is I'm going to go exactly the same path that I just did. So what I will do is I'll presume I'll go in here, I'll find the talisman of sanity, I'll get the holy water, I'll get the ring, and I'm going to get to this point, but I'm going to say that I make it regardless of what I roll for my skill, and to sort out the wood demon, and then I will take it from there. So I'm going to continue this next time. Thank you very much for watching, and if you are watching this, please like, share, subscribe, comment, join me on Patreon, buy me a coffee, all those things at the moment, as you know, and possibly for all time as far as I know at the moment. I'm not monetized. There is no advertising on my channel, which means that every little bit of support helps. If you buy a piece of artwork, if you buy a piece of music on Bandcamp, everything helps. So thank you in advance, and thank you for watching. I'm just going to do my transition now. No, that's the wrong one. I'm going to do like this first. Right, that's the correct order. Right, so that means that yeah, whatever help is of course highly appreciated if you wish to support my channel and allow me to keep doing this, which I really like doing, and I know that lots of people enjoy watching. Right, so next time there'll be more Crypts of the Necromancer, and we'll see how it goes then. We know this is going to be really difficult to complete fair and square. I'm going to ignore a lot of skill rolls, combat rolls, etc. again next time. But there's one thing I will never ignore, and that is finding the right path, finding the right items. If I ever find myself in a situation where I don't have the right item or I don't know where to find it, I will have to backtrack until I know the correct path through. That for me is the big and interesting puzzle of a gamebook, and that's what's fun for me to play. So, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye for now.